Hi everyone, you're watching the virtual Amicus and I'm Jay Ludha. Well, today's topic for discussion would be on basics of AI governance and ethics, privacy and data protection. Now, joining us today on the virtual Amicus is somebody who needs absolutely no formal introduction. She's not only gained widespread recognition, but also has made a huge name for herself in a very short span of time. She specializes in data protection and AI governance. So today we are in conversation with Miss Tanya Chib. And just to give you all a brief introduction about Amicus for today's session, she's a data protection and AI governance lawyer who specializes in helping technology driven companies navigate regulatory complexities while enabling innovation. With over a decade of experience working both in house and at law firms, she designs and implements pragmatic, business friendly compliance strategies that work at scale. Currently operating as an independent consultant, she provides flexible legal and compliance support across various engagement models, serving as a fractional legal advisor, interim general counsel, or project based consultant. She helps organizations navigate high growth phases, regulatory shifts, and major business transformations with strategic legal guidance tailored to their unique needs. A passionate advocate for the safe, trustworthy, and responsible development of AI, Tanya collaborates with purpose driven organizations committed to creating positive impact. Her expertise spans privacy law implementation and strategy, AI governance and ethics, risk management and compliance, privacy by design, architecture, and stakeholder training and engagement. She's particularly sought after by organizations looking to implement advanced AI technologies compliantly, create privacy first products and services, and develop responsible innovation frameworks that balance regulatory requirements with business objectives. Wow, what a fantastic introduction! Well, thank you so much for readily saying yes, for agreeing to do a session on our channel. It really means a lot. Anything that you wish to say about our YouTube channel, The Virtual Amicus, before we quickly start with the much anticipated Q&A segment?
Thank you so much, Jay. Thank you so much for the fantastic introduction. Thank you for the kind words. It is an absolute pleasure and honor to be here. I think you're doing a wonderful job with this platform. You're educating people, you're bringing together experts, and you're helping people benefit from their knowledge. So it's a wonderful cause, and I'm happy to be here and help your audience in whichever way I can.
Well, thank you for all the kind words. Let's quickly start with our Q&A segment. So, question number one coming your way. If you could please explain the role of an AI governance lawyer, and also your expertise spans privacy law implementations and strategy, AI governance and ethics, risk management and compliance, privacy by design and architecture, and stakeholder training and engagement. Could you please elaborate in that further in simpler terms?
Sure. So, an AI governance lawyer is a new term, either which has actually come up only in the last couple of years, maybe maximum in the last 4 years, 3 years. There was no such role. It has come up now, obviously, as technology is evolving, and we have seen some harms which are coming out of the technology and the way it has been used and deployed. And certain risks from the technology were being overlooked, and the harms from that were being seen in society. You can see examples from those in, I think we've all heard of the discrimination cases that are coming up from using AI, the inherent bias in it, just the how people are training AI has been very commonly by using by web scraping, so using people's data which is on the internet but without really taking their consent. So there's a violation of privacy over there. So because these wrongs were coming up and they were not being checked prior to the development and the deployment of the technology, this role has now come up of an AI governance lawyer. So AI governance lawyer typically is the bridge between law and cutting edge technology, where you're ensuring that new technologies, which involve the use of artificial intelligence, are being trained, deployed, and used in a responsible manner, which is one, in compliance with the law, and two, which is really ethical and which is in the benefit not only of the businesses but also of society in a long term view. So it is a little bit different from a traditional role of a lawyer, which really comes in after the harm has been committed. But here you are involved right from the start of a new product being put on the market to ensure that no harm is committed. So you are typically in your day-to-day activities deploying policies within companies so that there is ethical use of AI. You're helping educate people. So similar to what you are doing over here, you're empowering people with knowledge and tools so that they are developing, designing products with a considered manner of risks that may be associated with them. And of course, you're helping in compliance with the regulations. These regulations are emerging at the moment. They're coming out every day. The most recent one has been in Japan for AI regulation. So this is also now included within the scope. So there's a lot of learning. There's constant evolution. And so that is from an AI governance standpoint. From a privacy law standpoint, you're of course also one is to ensure compliance with regulations in the world with which govern privacy and data protection, such as the GDPR. But then you're also involved in setting a culture of privacy in the company. So a privacy first approach would mean, or privacy by design would mean, to include baking privacy into your products. So right from the start and not as an afterthought. Normally, I mean, the how I got into the world of privacy was because of the absence of I was so intrigued that there was a new law called the GDPR, which was coming out in the EU back in 2016, and there was no such law in India, and was not even really considered fundamental right. So there is a big cultural gap also in how privacy is seen, how people's data is used, and now we all know, of course, data is gold, and you need to be fair to the people whose data is being used to commercialize products. So you're really helping in protecting this fundamental right of people of privacy, and you're ensuring that when you're using a product which consumes data, which is using data, is doing so in a manner which is fair to the people whose data it is. I hope that was clear.
Yeah, absolutely. So now, going ahead with our next question, you specialize in helping technology-driven companies navigate regulatory complexities while enabling innovation. Could you please elaborate on that and explain it in simple terms for our viewers, please?
Yeah. So if you say maybe you take you're a health app, you're a tech startup and you're launching a health app, you will need to comply with a maze of regulations. So there are going to be consumer protection laws. There are obviously going to be data protection laws. If there is any AI in your product, you're going to have to comply with AI regulations. So this is quite a lot for a tech startup to navigate. So my role would be to simplify this legal jargon and to make them accomplish their goal, of course, which is of launching a product successfully in compliance with the laws, but which is also fair to the consumers and to society. So you're kind of playing a dual role. You are looking after the interests of the company, and you're ensuring that this is ethical and rolled out in a manner where you're not misusing the data of the people, for example, whose data is being entered into the app. So you simplify this for the company, and you're protecting the interests of the people.
Very well. And now going ahead with our next question, could you please explain the role of a privacy counsel and how different is it from that of a data protection lawyer?
Yeah, fair enough. It's a good question.
Mhm.
So there is on how it is used, there has been a lot of overlap. In my eyes, how I see this, a data protection lawyer would be somebody who helps you comply with data protection regulations all over the world, or in a particular jurisdiction. A privacy counsel is a little bit wider. A privacy counsel would be involved, again, as I was mentioning before, in the design of the product, so involved in the product building from day one. So you're looking into compliance from day one, and you're not only doing product compliance with the regulation, but you're also involved in the strategy. You're also involved in maybe building a culture of privacy within the company. So the role is a little bit broader. You could relate it to the role of a general counsel versus somebody who's an employment counsel within the company, or helping with HR matters, etc. But this is more because you're involved in strategy, the privacy council, and you're involved in the strategy of the product. You're involved in how privacy is looked at in the company. You have a bigger role and responsibility. It's more holistic. The privacy counsel versus data protection lawyer who would just be specialized in regulations all over the world.
Very well. And now, talking about your glorious journey in this field, how did you land up in this field? Was it by design? Was it by accident? And what all courses did you pursue in the process?
Yeah, thank you, Jay. So, yeah, great question again. I did not land up here intentionally. It just so happened. So I don't know if you know, but just again to recap for your audience, of course, I did my law and GLC in Bombay in Government Law College. worked as a corporate lawyer in a law firm, economics laws practice, got my training as a new lawyer there. And thereafter, I moved to the Netherlands to pursue my master's in law and economics in a place called Utrecht. At Utrecht University. I was there, so it was really a master's, which was, as I said, law and economics, and economics aspect of it is market regulation. So to look at how markets can be regulated in the best way possible. And one of the regulations that we were looking at that point, we were focusing on was this new regulation that was coming up in Europe called the General Data Protection Regulation, the famous GDPR. And I found it quite interesting that there's this new regulation which is governing a big fundamental right, as it is seen in the European Charter. Privacy is a fundamental right. And I hadn't heard of this concept back at home in India. And I found it quite interesting that, wow, they're making a whole regulation governing a fundamental right, which is not really talked about a lot, or at least, like in my experience, didn't really exist. And I wanted to delve deeper into it, and why is this dissonance there, and why is the gap there? And of course, I realized one of the factors is, of course, that India is a more communal society as opposed to Europe or the Western world, which is more individualistic society. That was actually the origin. So I found it quite interesting to go through this journey, and I did my thesis on it. It did extremely well. And then I had lots of knowledge about this new regulation, which was how I landed up my first job at Danone, which is a big French company, to help set up their GDPR compliance program. That's what I did. That's how I entered into this world of data protection. From there, I gained experience. I realized I do have a passion for it. And that is how my career started in the field.
Oh, what a glorious journey it has been. Now, you did mention that you pursued master's degree from Utrecht University. Was it like a general master's, or you did master's in a particular field or a branch or for an area of law? And how different, when you compare the two academic curriculums, how different is the master's program that you pursued as compared to the one at Government Law College, Mumbai?
Yeah, great question again. So it was the master's was in law and economics, which I found also quite interesting, because that was maybe not a subject that I had touched upon in my studies in GLC. But economics, we were learning more about how the markets work and how markets should be regulated. So there was a bit of competition law. There was this financial regulation, economic regulation, and then there was also regulation of use of data, for example. So infrastructure regulation, of course. So that is how, so that was the focus. That was only a 1 year program. There was quite difference in the teaching style, the approach. Actually, there was a lot of many differences. This was more self-learning focused in the Netherlands. We were reading a lot of articles. We were reading a lot of scientific research papers. So it was also, it felt like it was a lot more current and updated. A lot of self-learning requirement. There were many international students, of course, so that's always a great part. So you have lots of interesting discussions and debates. There was also lots of interaction between the students, where we were required to do lots of projects and submit many assignments, which I thought was not present in GLC. So all in all, it was a very good exposure. It was completely worth it to have this 1 year of doing following a different learning style and different teaching style, as opposed to GLC, where there was maybe a lot of rote learning.
That's kind of synonymous with the name. So, now that we've covered master's degree from the prestigious universities that you've been to in the Netherlands, how long have you been working in the Netherlands, and how different is the work culture, the academic landscape here, vis-a-vis the work culture and academic landscape in Bombay?
Yeah, great question. So drastically different, of course. So I've been working now for 8 or 7, 8 years now, excluding my master's. So that's been a long time. Worked in big corporates. I worked in Philips Healthcare, which is one of the landmark companies of the Netherlands. Worked at Danone, as I mentioned, this French company, and very different working style. So of course, what the Dutch are famous for is their direct communication style, which is a welcome change after India, because in India, of course, we don't speak very directly. For example, we are very famous for not being able to say no. While in the Netherlands, people have no difficulties with that. They will say no to you. And like, obviously, in the beginning, it was quite shocking for me. I was just like, are you being rude, or is this your normal way of talking? And this is just they're just saying things as it is. So they would and they expect you to talk like that as well. Another great difference that I now appreciate a lot, actually I think I did it right from the start, is the lack of hierarchy. It's a very flat organization. I think that was one of the main things that stole my heart, is that it does not matter what level of seniority you have. You have a seat on the table and your voice is respected, and it actually is even expected that you would say and express your opinion, and that would be taken into account. While in my experience, that was not always the case in India. You had to reach a certain level of seniority to be kind of taken seriously. And when you were a junior, you had to do certain tasks. And of course, even in the Netherlands, when you're junior, you are expected to bring everybody coffee, but your opinions and judgments are taken a lot more seriously, which I really valued. And especially also as a woman, very little discrimination or inequality in the office space, which is really something valuable. And that gives you a lot of confidence. Nobody would really check my work. Also, right at the beginning, they would trust you to be able to. I feel like in India, your work is always reviewed by a senior, which would not always be the case over here. And you're just trusted to be able to make decisions. And of course, your decisions are wrong. You would also then be the one responsible. So it would also then equally become a learning opportunity. So that is one of the main differences, which I found, which I saw and I really enjoyed as well.
Yeah, those 6 weeks that I'd spent back in 2014 during the summertime while pursuing the course, I kept hearing no, no, no all the time. Do you want to have coffee? No, I'm not going to say no, this is not possible. Well, I was always used to, hearing yes from all my friends. Maybe, yeah, we can do it. We'll work it out. No,
Correct.
not possible. So I thought that is how it is. I mean, that is how the culture is, and that is upfront and candid.
Yeah,
So I really appreciate that. Now I've come to terms with, all of that.
yeah.
So now, talking about mentor, do you have any mentor? And if at all, yes, then who was your mentor in this field?
Yeah. So I've had a number of mentors. As I've grown and evolved, the mentors have changed. So I trust, I have valued my network a lot throughout this process and leaned on my network a lot. So that could be seniors from college in GLC to my peers in my masters, to reaching out to people in the Netherlands, whether that is just the Indian diaspora for advice. And I've seen all of them as mentors. So not does not really have to be like a big professor, but just also you can learn a lot from people 2 or 3 years senior to you. So, for example, my thesis supervisor has been a big mentor, who is now working at the Dutch regulator for data protection. Pushed me a lot, taught me a lot. He gave me the opportunity to attend a summer school with a scholarship. So I think it's been a lot of people throughout the journey, including participating in mentorship programs. So I signed up for mentorship programs, where again I met somebody who is now leading the data protection team at Mastercard, who helped me. It was a 1 year program, so helped me go to conferences, write papers, what kind of an approach I should take to networking, to meeting people. So many mentors have come through the journey. And I've always, that's what the main point is, that lean on the network. So and what you're really doing also is bringing in different kind of people. So reach out to them, talk to them, make use of the people. And people are more often than not happy to share their knowledge. People actually like doing that. So I've used that.
That's incredible. Now, talking about memorable experiences and breakthroughs, any memorable experience or breakthrough that you can recollect from law school, or from college, or at any workplace that you wish to share with anyone or everyone, which turned out to be the most important turning point in your career?
Very interesting question. I think I can answer it in many ways, but what I think would be very impactful for your audience would be what would I will share it, and it is not a typical breakthrough in in the way that. So, for example, when I was at Danone, which was my first job in the Netherlands at this big company, after about 3.5, 4 years of working there, the company, which is quite normal for big companies to go through reorganization, the company went through a massive reorganization, and my role was made redundant. So I had to either quit the company or look for another position within the company. So it was like what would be seen as not really as a success, but actually quite the opposite. And to have to find a role, but things worked out, and I got another role at Philips. Eventually, after 1 year, there was a plan to take a sabbatical. I wanted to take a sabbatical, and Philips could not, because somehow Philips was going through a massive reorganization as well. They could not allow me to go to take the sabbatical. I wanted to take a sabbatical for 5 months. I wasn't permitted that. I could maximum be permitted for 1 month, or they could not keep me in the organization. So something very tricky with how the organization was playing, but I trusted what I wanted to do. I took the risk of still nonetheless going for my sabbatical. And I that resulted in me starting my own firm eventually and working for myself. So what would initially maybe be what would seem as a setback, but because I trusted maybe my instincts and what I wanted to do because it would make my heart happy, eventually resulted in something that was a success. So what I'm trying to say is, take risks. What may seem to be scary or unlikely at first can eventually also lead to a success story. So that's the takeaway. So it was really a breakthrough in the sense that it was breaking my heart, but eventually it resulted in something that worked out. So don't be very saddened by what may seem as a setback, because things will work out as long as you trust yourself and you follow your instincts.
Absolutely right. I think there's no such thing as failure in life. It's just lessons that you learn over a period of time. And then with perseverance, determination, and dedication, you can convert those stumbling blocks into stepping stones. And then ultimately,
Exactly.
something best is waiting for you at the end of the tunnel. There's always light at the end of the tunnel. And that is always
Totally.
the case. Yes. So now, lastly, what would, and so now we are at the fag end of our podcast. So lastly, what would be your piece of advice to all the young lawyers, law students who wish to build a successful career like you have in this field? Any internships, courses, or books that you wish to recommend to them?
Um, so I would say, like, don't be afraid to take risks. Don't be afraid to leave a stream where you have joined because you thought this is something that you would like, but it did not work out or you're not happy there. Don't keep slugging or pushing yourself. If it is not bringing out the best in you and if you're not thriving, of course, try, work hard. But it should also give you a return. If you're not feeling like this is your path, don't be afraid at any point in time to quit and pivot. I think that's quite an interesting learning, is to know when it's never too late to change. It's never too late to try something new. And I have done that throughout my career, leaving corporate law, coming into data privacy, now moving into AI governance while adopting data privacy. So see where the flow is taking you and see where you are thriving. And don't be afraid to change at any moment. Take risks. And as you said, there is no failure. There's either a learning opportunity or there's a success. So don't be afraid of that. And second is to lean on the network. I have personally found that to be very beneficial. Reach out to people, talk to them, ask them for things. Somewhere, something is going to connect and you will find what you're looking for. So keep trying and use your network. Reach out, connect with people. They will always be willing to help you. In terms of courses, I know what I have been, at least if people are interested in this field of AI governance and ethics, an excellent resource would be, it's called Blue Dot Impact. So BLUDOT and then Impact. They provide excellent free courses on AI governance, ethics, AI alignment, on how to best get into this field and to get at least the basic foundation knowledge that you would need for this field. So Blue Dot Impact. So I would recommend checking out their courses.
Well, I only have one thing to say, that you have made us all proud of your super achievements. So keep up the good work. And thank you so much. Really means a lot to me and my team that you took out time on a Friday, probably lunchtime, from your time slot. For readily saying yes and for doing this phenomenal session. So to all the viewers who are watching, our email is mentioned on the channel. In case if you still have any queries, feel free to write to us. We'll be more than happy to forward the same to our Amicus for today's session. So, next episode, it's on its way. Anything that you wish to say as parting words before we bid the final goodbye?
I want to thank you, Jay, for inviting me here, for setting up this podcast, for doing the work that you're doing. Again, you have made all of us proud as well. So thank you so much and keep doing the great work. It's really amazing that you're spreading all of this knowledge. And again, as I said, empowering the law students, very much needed. And thank you so much for that. I want to also reach out to your audience. If there is anybody I can help out, if there's any interest, questions, comments you have on this field, please don't hesitate to reach out to me on my LinkedIn. Maybe I can share my LinkedIn profile with you. Maybe you could add it to the description or something. And please feel free. If there's any questions, I'm more than willing to help out on this. So thank you. And again, thank you so much for the opportunity.
Thank you so much once again. It's goodbye for now. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye bye.